Hi there. So I'd like to have a chat about an interesting topic which means so much to British people and literally to everyone in the world, and that is basically foreign aid and the purpose of it, even more likely the point of it. Because with foreign aid, I've noticed it does have its good points and it does have its bad points as well. So the good points is helping other nations in poorer backgrounds, like third world countries, getting their people to be um, more satisfied, like helping them with water, aid, medicines, and so forth for these war-torn countries or third world countries, which is fair and understandable. And the idea is to prevent, with this foreign aid, is to prevent um, more people crossing over into first world countries or mass immigration or mass migration, I think it's called. However, it does have its downsides because a lot of these countries, like the African countries, or even countries like India in particular, and even China in some cases, is they're taking the mick. As some countries are developing, I mean hugely developing. They've got so much money, they even have a space program, but they expect foreign aid to still come into the country to help feed their poor, starving people. And you're like, hang on, you've got a space program, but yet you want the rest of the world to cater to your lower classes so you can keep operating your space program. It does take the mick. And there is a massive growth of nationalisation. And one of the worst countries for this ideology, apart from the UK, is India. India has a massive case of actual nationalisation and national identity to the point of its own citizens, especially a lot of the Hindu ones, dislike the Muslim community and vice versa, and there's a massive war going on right now, even to the point of religious buildings being burnt to the ground. Also, the fact is, Britain had an empire. We all know this. It had an empire. We owned like a third of the world's countries, and we give like foreign aid as a way of, I don't know, it almost feels like keeping them happy so it doesn't make the Commonwealth countries split and get away from us. I could be wrong on that one. But at the same time, Indian nationals are claiming that they do not want dirty English money to come into their land. They openly admit they don't want it. India is the best nation in the world. It's world leading in technology, industry, economics, and will be the master or first world's best country in the world, as in leading economic country in the world against China. However, is that true is another matter. India does have an impressive railway, and most of its population do work for the railways, which is incredible. But if you look at the state of the roads, look at the state of the hospitals, looking at the state of sanitation, basic sanitation, and a lot of the Indian nationals, they don't admit there is a problem. They just go, oh, that's the West's fault. That's Britain's fault from its colonialism. Britain needs to pay compensation for all the atrocities of the East India Company. And yet, at the same time, they say, oh, we don't want any dirty English money. We don't want English help. Yeah, it's all about us. Well, if it's all about you in India and a few of the other countries as well, such as China, why doesn't the British government cut back on foreign aid, or at least cut off the countries that don't actually need it? So any country that has a space program, has a strong military vibe, why should we provide health and aid to those countries which for years we've been sponsoring them money and foreign aid to help grow their economy and help their citizens, when their own governments, their own leaders, warlords, chieftains, or whatever, they cannot be bothered to help their own citizens. And their own citizens have had enough. They've really had enough. Hence why we got a massive problem with mass migration. But it's a real catch-22, because if you try to intervene and do things like UN support and so forth, like Congo is at the moment, all you do is just going to kick a hornet's nest and start a massive war. You escalate the problem. But if you cut back on foreign aid, you're the one that's deemed as the criminals. You're the ones be deemed as racist and so forth. So again, it has a negative effect. But at the same time, we cannot, when we have problems of our own NHS, we have potholes in our roads are not being fixed. There's so much problems in our home country. There even could be a potential European war starting. We need to look after ourselves. Why should we sponsor money? Why should we help other nations like third world countries, especially the ones that cannot be bothered to help their own citizens? Why should we provide them with money? I mean, why India, for example, is a really good example. Same with Pakistan. Pakistan has always been anti-British. There's no word of a doubt to that. Always been anti-Western. I mean, they even harboured Al-Qaeda leaders and other terrorist syndicates. Yet they still expect the West to pay them money to satisfy their own farmers. And here's an interesting thing. When America and Britain left Afghanistan, there was a farmer. I always remember this, a farmer. And he says, when we left and we stopped doing foreign aid, he actually said, oh, you can't do that. That will just cause problems. We're starving here. We're not taking care of ourselves. We need help. We need assistance. And it's like, oh, that's horrible. But then you think he's a farmer. So why isn't he ploughing the fields to grow crops to help his own starving family and help his own starving community? Because he says his own family is struggling. Then, as the interview carried on, do you know what he said? This makes me laugh. It's so ridiculous. He's an opium farmer. He's an opium farmer. He grows opium. He grows drugs. So no wonder why his family is starving. No wonder why his people are struggling in his local community. Because he's not providing he's not providing crops, he's not providing food, he's not providing sheep, goats, or whatever farmer you want to be. He just goes straight into the drugs trade and making money out of drugs and opium. And you're like, and we're sponsoring this? We're sponsoring this? No, that needs to stop. That needs to stop. And a lot of other countries are taking the mick. Some of the African countries are taking the mick. Some of the South American countries are taking a bit, but I'm sorry, it's the second developed worlds, the ones that are so industrialized, they're the ones who are really taking the mick here. They really are, because we're sponsoring and aiding the money to help their own citizens when they can't even be bothered to look after their own citizens themselves, and develop weird vanity projects of massive skyscrapers or rockets into outer space or Mars or wherever they want to go. And like, we need to cut this down. Even if we cut back foreign aid by, let's say, a mere 3% of foreign aid we cut back on. Even cut back on things like sponsoring. We can still do trade with China. We can still trade, well, if you want to. We can still trade with India and do all that. That's fine. Global trade is fine. Nothing wrong with global trade so long as it's regulated and it's done within the law. But I feel like we need to cut back on foreign aid from certain countries that are taking a mick. Because some of these countries, even, they're the most polluting. They are the most polluting. I mean, India and China are the two worst polluting countries in the world. It's not like the US is the major one. No, it's India and China. And the rest of Europe are cutting back so much. But it's India and China. They cannot be bothered. There's so much sewage everywhere. There's so much rubbish everywhere. There's so much pollution. Smog. Now, I still remember seeing a footage of Beijing in the early 90s. And there's bicycles everywhere. Clean air and thousands upon thousands of bicycles everywhere. It's like Amsterdam, but on steroids. It's just so magical. It looks wonderful. It's like a whole different world. Now, you can barely see anything because there's like real heavy yellow smog, which is dangerous to your health. And there's so much traffic in Beijing and other places. And that doesn't do their health any good. You know, that's going to cause you asthma. That's going to cause you lung cancer. Yeah, real dangerous stuff. These are leading countries, next growing economic countries in the world. The technology is out there for renewable energy and solar energy and so forth, but it cannot be bothered. That's the attitude. Cannot be bothered. Now, if we cut back on foreign aid, say like a mere 3%, we can use that money to help our own communities and to help sponsor like things such as mental health, improvement on transportation, making our industries more greener and more economical. We can actually help British farmers even get better by merely cutting back like 3% of foreign aid. Some of these countries, I'm sorry, they're taking the mick. They don't deserve foreign aid, and their own nationalist people, like places like India, for example, they do not want dirty English money. I think, fine, if you don't want foreign aid, if you do not want support from Britain, we can do economic trade, that's fine, no problem. But if you do not want foreign aid, you admitted it yourself, you don't want foreign aid, you're not going to get it. And let's see how that goes. Will you grow and develop and actually become a better nation? Or will you just bitch and whine and moan and be like Karens, an entire population of Karens? And that's the thing. I feel like there is a growing number of Karens in the world, and it's driving me insane. I don't know if it drives you potty, but it really just drives me up the wall. But I feel like foreign aid does have its place. It does to a certain extent. But when certain countries in the world are taking the mick and not providing health and sanitation to their own people, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I think we need to stop. We need to stop or cut back. Stop taking the Michael, stop taking the Mickey, and provide help and aid to countries who truly need it. And it's the same with Palestine. A lot of people with charities and things want to sponsor Palestine. Their own government is a terrorist organization. They do not support women's rights. They do not support LGBT. I mean, you're hanged, stoned, or even mutilated in a form of entertainment and torture just because of women's rights or LGBT rights or freedom of speech. You'll be hanged for that, or stoned to death, or shot at, probably stoned to death more likely. But yet, so many of these charities want to support Palestine with their own governments, and their own governments causes more atrocities than the rest of the Middle East. And you want to help them? I mean, I don't remember a Star Trek episode of the Federation sponsoring terrorism. Not even Star Trek Discovery. And on board the USS Discovery, their crew is so woke. It's unbelievable, but I can't imagine the people on board the Starship Discovery aiding terrorism. Could they? So we need to cut back on foreign aid. We need to look and prioritize on certain countries, the countries that really generally need help. There's a lot of countries that generally do need help. A lot of the African ones in particular. Nigeria, again, is a growing, developing country, but I think with better care and aid and priorities for places like them, they can grow and prosper. They can grow and develop. And I feel a lot of the other African countries, and same with South America, they can grow and become better. And we need to prioritize. We need to prioritize on ourselves and our own nations, because money is tight. We're in a cost of living crisis. But at the same time, we need to cut back and we need to stop countries from taking the mick using foreign aid so they can fund money on vanity projects, because they really are taking the mick. And I'm sorry, it's annoying. It's really frustrating. We're a nation, our nation, the UK, doesn't have a space program. Our healthcare service is probably the 6th best in the world. And people moan about waiting times of A&E corridors being completely full with patients waiting for help, with a waiting list of 8 hours to 15 hours in A&E waiting corridors. And people moan about the NHS and, everything needs to go to the NHS. So why are we supporting foreign aid to countries that are taking the mick and just abusing the system when we can be helping British workers out? We can create jobs in the UK with that extra money. We can provide better infrastructure within the UK, and that's the way forward. Foreign aid does have its advantages. Yes, it does. But there are countries that are taking the mick, and I'm sorry, that needs to stop. And I genuinely hope there's a government out there who is generally listening to this, and the people need to listen to this, and we can actually do something and make real change. Anyway, thank you for listening to this, and I hope you're enjoying yourselves, and have a really pleasant day. Take care, all the best. Bye.